Lieutenant Colonel Matt Rolls here from the RCR Personal Development Initiative to encourage you to participate in the forthcoming tactical decision game competition. This is an opportunity for you to hone your intellectual edge before you have to do it live. You'll engage with a realistic scenario in a time-constrained environment, submitting your solution to be evaluated and wargamed. First, second, and third place winners will take home a cash prize of $1,000, $750, and $250 respectively. The competition will open at the end of April, so keep your ear to the ground for details in the coming days. Don't miss this opportunity to sharpen your axe. Think critically, lead confidently, win. Pro Patria.
This podcast is owned and operated by the RCR Association, a private third party to the Department of National Defense. The content of this podcast is the responsibility of the RCR Association and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the Government of Canada. The official emblems of the regiment are used with the permission of Regimental Headquarters, the RCR.
You want to talk a little bit about the competition?
Yes, sir. I had a few questions as quite a nerd myself. What's it going to look like in terms of how it's going to run, how it's going to look kind of day-to-day playing the operations for someone who's coming to join and try to win? And what are the rules going to look like? How are we going to win?
Okay. So it's going to be, you're going to start off, you're going to be able to access this through a MS Forms application. So everyone, has got 365 on their teams or teams on their D1. So you log into your D1, open up 365, and then go to MS Forms, and then you'll have access to it through there. And what that allows us to do is sort of do it all asynchronously. Now, I like to do tactical decision games with a time component in terms of like we're limiting the amount of time you have to make decisions, so that ratchets up, one, the realism, two, puts a little bit of stress on the player, which is good because that's what it's like in real life. And also like time constraint is always critical to tactical decision making because tactical decision making is inherently time competitive. So you're going to open this thing up. You're going to be given, if you've seen any tactical decision games available from the Canadian Army Journal that I've written, you're going to get like a map, a diagram. And then you're going to get a very short description of the situation. And then you're going to be asked essentially, what do you do? So you're going to do that out. We are still working on our criteria in terms of how we're going to score the actual, output, and the output would be an order, direction. So there's there's many ways that you could go about doing that, but I think the preferred method would be to go with an actual written order, situation, mission, execution, service support, command SIGs that we're all sort of familiar with. We as the team that's running the competition, will take that and we'll grade it according to a rubric. Still working on the rubric. And we'll look to identify sort of the top, probably the top 4 to 6 answers based on the rubric. And then the other responses will be eliminated. And then those top 4 to 6 will go on to wargaming. And so we're looking at a combination of the Staff College in Kingston, which is where Major Alex Buck works, who's been supporting me on this. And also Fight Club Canada. We've got another member of the Army Headquarters who works with Fight Club Canada pretty intimately. And so they might wargame it as well. So what we can pull from wargaming would be clearly like mission accomplishment, and then secondly would be sort of the casualties that are inflicted on the other side. And so what we can determine based on that is the actual the effectiveness of each solution. And so based on the results of both the initial grading, like based on the orders, and then the follow on with the wargaming, then we'll declare a winner. First place gets $1,000, second place gets $750, and third place gets $250.
Okay, that's very interesting. So it's going to be through the team system on MS Teams.
Yep.
And we just basically go through the old school orders process as we've all done many times.
Yep.
And whoever comes up with the best solution, lowest casualties kind of does best then, sort of situation.
Yeah, and so we haven't defined the first step fully in terms of like how do we assess people's orders, but we're not looking for like perhaps what you've seen from time to time is like a set of patrol orders. Let's say we're going on an ambush or a raid. Those patrol orders can be quite long sometimes. That's not what we're looking for in this case because we're providing you a scenario, and I'm being intentionally vague about the scenario because we don't want people to know the scenario ahead of time. The point is that you're going to open this thing up, and then you're going to probably have about 30 minutes to answer it, and everybody will be in the same situation because the like the MS Teams will open at the same time, and then you as an individual will go into it and be able to answer it, but it'll close after 30 minutes. Or it may remain open, and then you'll start taking penalties the longer you take.
Okay.
So done through MS Teams, and we're still working on the rubric in terms of how we assess orders to determine who goes on to the second phase, which is wargaming. And wargaming will look at least two criteria: that of mission accomplishment. So if your your response doesn't even accomplish the mission, well, that's not really a great place to start. And then secondly would be how many casualties you take. So that would be a reflection of like how effective was your actual response. It'll also, and the other thing here too is that the people wargaming the scenarios, the way we have it set up right now, is that the people wargaming the scenarios will not be the people who provided the solution. So it's like I said, it's going to go to the staff college, or it's going to go to Fight Club Canada. And so that means that your solution needs to be very clear. You need to be able to articulate that which you want to happen in a very concise, but also very clear manner. And I've focused so far like on the written part, but also you should also submit like a solution in as a graphic. So, on PowerPoint, put your mission tactical verbs on there, phase lines, all the requisite control measures that make it so that people can actually execute the mission that you're having them do.
Okay, so it's very much the speed, but it's also the quality at the same time. It's very
yeah, it's 100%. Which is a reality. It's one of the significant challenges of our profession. The ability to make good, not necessarily perfect, but good decisions rapidly, and then to communicate them as well. There's no point. You could be the best decision maker in the world. You could be the smartest tactical genius in the regiment. But if you can't communicate your decision effectively then to your subordinates, then it doesn't really matter. And that's why the actual orders that you're going to submit to the team to have a look at, and the overlay, for lack of a better term, like the visual part of it, is so critical. Because ideally, like when I ran these for my company when I was an OC, I insisted that my platoon commanders and from my section commanders and from time to time the soldiers in the company that I had do them communicate it in a way that was understandable for those they were speaking to, and that the idea that the solution that you're communicating should actually be able to be executed, and people should therefore need to understand that which you are communicating.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like it'll be very interesting there, sir.
Yeah. So what I can recommend for folks, if anybody like is out there and is really is interested in doing this but doesn't have any experience with them, they can go to the Canadian Army Journal website as a start state. And so there's at least 3 or is it 4 now TDGs already there that I've written over the past several years, and they've been published there. But beyond that too, 2 RCR's SharePoint still has like a humongous collection of TDGs on it that I collected over the years from the Marine Corps, U.S. Army, and a handful of other places, and they're all still on the SharePoint for 2 RCR. So more than you could go through in a lifetime, probably.
Definitely some fun to be had then.
I like to think so. Yeah, maybe not for everybody, but yeah, I like to think so. It's just these are exceptionally good training tools. They are cheap, as in they don't require anything to run other than your people, and they don't take up a lot of time. So these can be done on the margins while you're waiting to go on a range. They can be done as part of soldier, NCO, and officer PD being run within the units, and they're great ways to better understand the people that's working for you and that work with you in terms of how they think, how they analyze problems, and then how they communicate them.
Is there any other points you'd like to hit here, sir, before we call off? Or how is there anything else that you'd like us to have forward for us non-PLQ corporals, our privates, our Jackson sergeants who may be trying to get in on this?
You know what? So I'm really stoked to hear that there might be like a real audience out there, below the level of captain and lieutenant that are really interested in doing this. This first one is going to be at the combat team level, so like subunit with tanks attached to it and stuff like that. It's kind of optimized probably for the captain level, but please do not shy away from it for that. And we are actually looking at, as part of our grading rubric, considering rank.
Okay.
So like one option would be that essentially you get graded on a curve, right? Like as a corporal submitting a response for a combat team TDG, we would take that into account when we're grading your response. And either way, like this is just a good opportunity for professional development to expose yourself to those types of problems that those a little bit higher in the chain of command than you are experiencing. But that doesn't mean it's not valid for you, because I remember being, a young platoon commander in Afghanistan, and I had at that time we'd get a handful of things attached to us. It wasn't exactly a combat team, but I remember having some very large patrols. As I'd get an Afghan platoon attached to me, and then we'd have the Afghan National Police, and maybe a dog team, and then counter ID attached to it. So anyway, you go in for some relatively large patrols. And the point being is that I had very junior soldiers who had experienced on the previous rotation, who informed my thinking on how we were going to conduct operations that day. So there's nothing to stop our junior ranks from using opportunities like this to better themselves, and to get themselves ready for the future challenges that are coming this way, operationally, but also in training too. Like, doing something like this gives you a set and a rep of looking at a much larger problem than what you'll look at when you go on PLQ, which will make PLQ just that little bit much more easy.
Get us that big picture.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Because we always want to be able to think 2 levels higher, right? That's what we tell ourselves, at least. That the combat team commanders within the battalions, or the company commanders, who then become combat team commanders when they get stuff attached to them, they need to be able to think about what the brigade commander wants to achieve, and they need to be ready to be able to fight the battalion's fight. And so people working within rifle sections need to be able to think about what the platoon commander is doing, but also the company commander. So this is a good opportunity to see just what it is, the problems is that company commanders are expected to be able to deal with within the Army. Last point would be, this is a great way to communicate the importance of PD. So we're doing it like right now, right? But this conversation, we're trying to get this out to the regiment, but also by people participating is really the best way to do this as well. So if we get sergeants, master corporals who want to get in on this, or corporals, who are Section 3 ICs and or even corporals who would just have informal leadership roles within our battalions. Like, say, I don't know, someone like you who's running this podcast. It demonstrates the care that you have for the profession of arms that we're all a part of, and how we need to be ready for the next fight. So it's part of being a leader. It's a leadership responsibility, and that desire that we should all have to be as lethal as possible. And to be lethal, we need to think lethal. And this TDG process is part of that.
Sharpen not just the bayonet, but the brain.
Not just the bayonet, but the brain. That's good. Yeah, I like that too. All right, maybe we'll put that in. Yeah.
Feel free to use it.
Okay, awesome. All right.
All right.